Unit 3A, Lesson 4. In this lesson, we're going to discuss some common formulas and how to rearrange and isolate for a quantity of interest in those formulas. To start off this lesson, we're going to go through a list of some common formulas. We have a formula for the area of a circle, the circumference of a circle, area of a rectangle, the relationship between distance, rate, and time, simple interest, compound interest, the relationship between a Fahrenheit and Celsius temperature, the Pythagorean theorem, and then the quadratic formula. You do not have to write these down, but if there's some that are more confusing or you don't remember, it might be a good idea to write those down, because in the next portion of this lesson, we're going to go through some of these formulas and isolate some of the variables. So we're going to go through a couple examples isolating an indicated variable. So the first problem, we have a formula to calculate simple interest. We have the interest earned, the principal, which is the original amount, the rate, and the time. Suppose we wanted to isolate and solve for the rate. So we want to get R by itself. We could first divide by P and then divide by T times. Since we're multiplying, we got to do the inverse operation. Or we can just do that in one step. Divide by the principal and the time in one step rather than two. So that's going to leave us with R equal to the simple interest divided by the principal amount times the time. The next example, we're going to be working with the formula for compound interest. A stands for the amount in the account at a given time. P is the principal amount. R stands for the interest rate. N is the number of times compounded in a given year. And then T stands for the number of years. This one's going to be a little more complicated because there's a little more going on in the formula. But what we're going to do is try to isolate T by itself. So the first thing we need to do to this equation is divide by P. So now in our equation, we have A divided by P equal to 1 plus R over N raised to the NT power. If we're trying to isolate for T, the issue right now is that our variable we want to isolate is in the exponent. So we have to apply natural logarithms, meaning we need to take the natural log of each side of this equation. Because one of the properties of logarithm says if we take the natural log, we can bring this exponent down as a coefficient. So now we brought that exponent down as a coefficient. The natural log of this value, that just represents some number, some constant being multiplied by n times t. So we need to divide both sides by the natural log of 1 plus r over n. So now we're left with the natural log of a over p divided by the natural log of 1 plus r over n equal to n times t. The last step, if we want to isolate that variable t by itself, we need to divide both sides by n. Essentially, that's going to move that variable n into the denominator of the fraction on our left. So our final equation is natural log of a over p divided by the quantity n times the natural log of 1 plus r over n equal to t. So this is just a quick review of how we can take a formula and isolate for a variable.